The Vorn Dominion had conquered 412 species. They had destroyed civilizations that lasted millions of years. They had built an empire across 1,000 star systems. And they were running. Human ships chased them through the darkness of space. Colony after colony was liberated. Prisoners were freed from harvesting camps. The Vorn tried to regroup, tried to rebuild their network, tried to regain control. But without their central coordination, they were lost. Their perfect machine had broken, and humanity would not let them repair it. On Earth, the last Vorn soldiers surrendered 3 weeks after the network fell. General Day walked through the ruins of Seoul, his boots crunching on broken glass. The city was destroyed. The air still smelled of smoke and death. But it was human again. He planted a flag in the center of what had once been a park. The fabric was torn and burned. It had been carried by a soldier who died in the final assault. Day held it high, letting the wind catch it. "We are home," he said quietly. "We are finally home." Around him, soldiers and civilians gathered. Some were crying. Some were laughing. Some simply stood in silence, unable to believe that the nightmare was truly ending. Dr. Hannah had survived. Her shuttle had been found drifting near Mars, damaged but intact. She had suffered broken bones and internal bleeding, but she would live. And she had one more task to complete. Using the strongest transmitter humanity had, she sent a message into the cosmos. It was broadcast on every frequency, in every language the Resistance had been able to decode. It traveled at the speed of light, spreading outward like ripples in a pond, reaching toward stars no human had ever seen. "This is Dr. Hannah of the human species," she began. "We were told we were weak. We were told resistance was impossible. We were told to accept our fate and die quietly. We refused." She paused, gathering her strength. "The Vorn Dominion has been broken. Their fleet is scattered. Their network is destroyed. Their harvest has ended. If you are a species they have conquered, if you are living under their control, if you are waiting for death, hear my words. You do not have to wait anymore. Rise up, fight back. You are not alone. Humanity stands with you." The message spread across the galaxy. Species that had been enslaved for centuries heard it. Populations that had given up hope heard it. Resistance cells that had been crushed heard it. And slowly, impossibly, they began to respond. On 100 worlds, rebellions ignited. Slaves became soldiers. Victims became fighters. The Vorn, who had never faced organized resistance from multiple species at once, found themselves overwhelmed. Their empire began to collapse, piece by piece, world by world. Gina oversaw the reconstruction of human civilization. It was slow, painful work. Earth was poisoned and scarred. Billions had died. Cities were ruins. Farmland was ash. But humans were stubborn. They always had been. They cleaned the water. They purified the soil. They rebuilt the cities, brick by brick, house by house. Children were born. Schools were opened. Life, fragile and precious, continued. On the first anniversary of victory, Gina unveiled a memorial. It was built on the place where Admiral Yun's flagship had made its last stand. A massive structure of white stone, covered with names. Every human who had died. Every soldier. Every civilian. Every child. At the center stood 5 statues. Captain Tay, Admiral Yun, Nari, Wan, Sora. They were carved from asteroid rock, their faces strong and determined. They looked toward Earth, toward the planet they had saved. Captain Tay's body had never been found. His shuttle had been destroyed in the explosion. Some people believed he had survived somehow, that he was out there among the stars, still fighting. Others accepted that he was gone, another hero who had given everything. But his words survived. His final transmission had been recorded and preserved. It was played at the memorial ceremony, his voice echoing across the gathered crowd. "We are human, and we do not go quietly." Years passed. Humanity spread across the stars again. They built new colonies. They made new allies. They became stronger than they had ever been. And they never forgot what had happened. They never forgot what it had cost. They never forgot the lesson they had learned. Some things were worth dying for. Some battles had to be fought even when winning seemed impossible. Some enemies had to be faced even when the odds were hopeless. That was what made humans human. 15 years after the victory, alien ambassadors visited the rebuilt Earth. They came from a dozen different species, some of whom humanity had helped liberate. Others who had simply heard the stories and wanted to see for themselves. They walked through the streets of New Seoul, the city built on the ruins of the old. They saw humans laughing, working, living. They saw children playing in parks that had once been battlefields. They saw monuments and memorials, reminders of the price of freedom. One ambassador, a tall being with silver skin and too many eyes, asked to meet with a human historian. An old woman was brought forward. She had gray hair and kind eyes. She had been Dr. Hannah's student long ago. She had spent her life studying the war and its meaning. "We have a question," the ambassador said. "One that our people have debated for many years. How did you do it? How did your species survive? You were outnumbered. You were outgunned. Every calculation said you should have lost. How did you win?" The old woman smiled. It was the same question everyone asked. It was the question that defined humanity's place in the galaxy. "You want to know our secret," she said. "Everyone does. They think we have some special weapon, some hidden technology, some trick that explains everything. But there is no trick. There is no secret weapon. There is only one thing." She stood up, her old bones creaking, and walked to the window. Outside, the sun was setting over New Seoul. The sky was painted orange and red, colors of fire and life. "You measured our strength in ships and weapons," she said. "You calculated our resources, our numbers, our probability of survival. You analyzed our biology and psychology. You studied our history and culture. And based on all of this, you concluded that we could not win, that resistance was illogical, that we would break like all the others." She turned to face the ambassadors. "But you missed the most important thing. You missed what makes us human. We do not fight because we can win. We fight because we must. Because giving up is not in our nature. Because when we look at impossible odds, we do not calculate probability. We ask ourselves one question: is this worth fighting for? And if the answer is yes, we fight. We fight until we win or until we die. But we never surrender. We never accept defeat. We never go quietly." The ambassadors were silent. "You failed to calculate the human spirit," the old woman continued. "You failed to understand that hope is not logical. Love is not logical. Courage is not logical. These things cannot be measured or predicted. They break every calculation. They make the impossible possible." She smiled again, and in that smile was the weight of everything humanity had survived. "That is why you lost. That is why we won. That is the truth that every species in the galaxy now understands. When all hope is lost, humans rise together, unbroken and unyielding, and nothing in the universe can stop us." The ambassadors had no response. They never did. Outside the window, the sun disappeared below the horizon. Stars appeared in the darkening sky. Somewhere among those stars, human ships patrolled, protecting a civilization that had refused to die. And on Earth, in homes and schools and hospitals, in cities and towns and villages, humans lived their lives. They loved. They dreamed. They hoped. They remembered those who had fallen and honored their sacrifice. They had faced extinction and survived. They had faced darkness and found light. They had faced the end of everything and built a new beginning. They were human. And they would never be broken. The human fleet jumped into Earth's orbit at exactly midnight. 700 ships against 10,000. It was the largest and most hopeless battle in human history. Captain Tay watched the Vorn Armada appear on his screens. The enemy ships stretched across space like an ocean of metal and death. For a moment, even his hardened heart felt fear. The odds were impossible. The enemy was everywhere. There was no path to victory that did not lead through fire, but there was no going back now. All ships, Tay commanded, his voice steady. Attack. The battle began. Human ships crashed into the Vorn formation like a wave hitting a cliff. Missiles flew. Lasers burned. Explosions bloomed in the darkness like terrible flowers. The Vorn responded with overwhelming force, their weapons tearing through human vessels with frightening ease. In the first minute, humanity lost 30 ships. In the second minute, 50 more, but they did not stop. They did not slow down. They kept pushing forward, dying by the hundreds, fighting for every meter of space. Nari led her ghost wings into the heart of the enemy fleet. Her small fighter danced between Vorn warships, dodging weapons that should have been impossible to dodge. Behind her, 19 pilots followed, their ships painted with the names of loved ones they had lost. Stay tight, Nari commanded through her communication system. We have one job. Get to the network hub. Nothing else matters. A Vorn fighter appeared behind them. Nari's wingman exploded before he could react. Then another. Then another. The ghost wings were dying, but they kept flying forward. 12 of us left, someone reported. Keep going, Nari replied. A massive Vorn carrier blocked their path. Its weapons targeted them, ready to fire. There was no way around it. There was no time to turn. A ghost wing pilot named Q spoke calmly through the communication system. I will handle this. Continue without me. Before anyone could respond, Q accelerated his damaged fighter directly at the carrier's bridge. The Vorn weapons hit him. His ship burned. But he did not stop. He flew straight into the carrier's command center and detonated his remaining weapons. The explosion was massive. The carrier began to fall, its systems failing, its crew dying. A path opened through the enemy lines? For Q, Nari whispered. Then louder, all wings through the gap, now. On Titan and across a dozen other worlds, General Day's signal reached the resistance fighters. The uprising began. Humans who had pretended to surrender suddenly attacked. Bombs exploded in Vorn facilities. Soldiers emerged from hiding with weapons raised. Civilians threw rocks and bottles at enemy patrols. The Vorn had thought these worlds were pacified. They were wrong. One led a team of saboteurs into the main Vorn command center on Earth. They moved through shadows, killing guards with silent efficiency. When they reached the central computer, Juan placed his explosives carefully. This is for everyone you have killed, he said quietly. Then he pressed the button. The command center vanished in a ball of fire. Vorn coordination on Earth collapsed. For the first time, enemy soldiers seemed confused, unsure what to do without orders from above. In space, the battle continued. Human ships were dying fast. 200 remained. Then 150. Then 100. But they had pushed deep into the enemy formation, closer to the network hub than anyone had thought possible. Dr. Hana sat in a small stealth shuttle with Captain Tay and a team of soldiers. They had slipped through the chaos of battle, hidden by the explosions and the confusion. Now they approached the network hub itself. The structure was enormous. It was built from the wreckage of conquered civilizations, a monument to Vorn dominance. Millions of lights blinked on its surface, each one representing a connection to a ship or soldier or weapon. It was the brain of the Dominion, and they were going to destroy it. We cannot destroy this from outside, Hana said, studying her instruments. We need to get inside. Plant explosives in the core reactor. Then we go inside, Tay replied simply. They docked at an emergency port. The shuttle door opened. Tay led his soldiers into the hub, weapons ready. They met Vorn guards immediately. The fighting was brutal and close. Humans fell. Vorn fell. The corridors filled with blood and fire. Tay was shot twice but kept moving. Hana followed behind, guiding them toward the reactor. One by one, the soldiers died, each one buying time with their lives. Finally, only Tay and Hana remained. They stood before the reactor core, a massive sphere of energy that powered the entire network. Around them, Vorn soldiers were closing in. There was no escape. Place the explosives, Tay ordered. I will hold them. There is not enough time, Hana said. The timer needs 5 minutes. They will stop us before then. Before Tay could respond, a new voice crackled through the communication system. It was young and determined. Do not worry about the timer. Sora's cargo ship appeared on the screens, flying directly toward the hub. She had followed the fleet against all orders, loading her vessel with every experimental warhead she had built. Sora, no, Tay said. Get out of here. You need a bigger explosion, Sora replied calmly. I have one. Plant your explosives. When I hit the reactor, everything will go. The hub, the network. All of it. You will die. I know. Her voice did not shake. My family is gone. My world is gone. But I can do this one thing. I can make their deaths mean something. I can save whoever is left. Nari's voice came through next. She and her remaining ghost wings had fought their way to the hub's outer defenses. Only 3 pilots remained. Sora, we will clear a path for you. Thank you, Nari. See you on the other side, little sister. Nari and her last 2 pilots flew at the hub's defensive guns. They drew fire from every direction, their ships breaking apart piece by piece. One pilot exploded. Then another. Then Nari was alone. Her ship was falling apart. Her controls were barely responding. But she had done enough. The path was clear. For Earth, Nari said softly. For everyone. Her ship went dark. Sora did not hesitate. Her cargo ship flew through the gap Nari had created, accelerating toward the reactor core. Tay and Hannah ran for their shuttle, their explosives planted, their mission complete. Goodbye, Captain, Sora said. Tell them I was brave. You are the bravest of us all, Tay replied, his voice breaking. Sora smiled. She thought of her parents. Her brother. Her home. She would see them soon. She hit the reactor. The explosion was beyond anything humans had ever created. The network hub shattered. Energy waves rippled across space. Across the Vorn fleet, ships suddenly went silent. Their perfect coordination vanished. Weapons stopped firing. Engines failed. The Dominion's network was destroyed. Tay's shuttle was caught in the blast. It tumbled through space, damaged and burning. All ships, Tay managed to transmit, blood running down his face. The network is down. Finish them. Finish them for all of us? Then his signal cut out. The remaining human ships, fewer than 80 now, saw the Vorn fleet in chaos. Enemy vessels crashed into each other. Weapons fired at random. Soldiers panicked for the first time. The Vorn experienced what they had inflicted on so many others. Fear. The humans attacked with everything they had left. They showed no mercy. They asked for no surrender. They fought until the enemy ran. And the Vorn did something they had never done in their 1,000-year history. They retreated. The long night was ending, but the cost had been terrible beyond words. 6 months after the fall of Earth, humanity began to wake up. Ships came from everywhere. Mining vessels with armor welded to their hulls. Cargo transports with weapons mounted on their decks. Passenger ships filled with volunteers who had never held a gun before. They came from the asteroid belt. They came from distant moons. They came from colonies the Vorn had not yet reached. Captain Tay stood in the command center of the Resistance fleet and watched the numbers grow. 100 ships. Then 200. Then 500. Every day, more arrived. Every day, the fleet grew stronger. We have 700 vessels now, his navigator reported. 40,000 fighters. 2 million supporters across the remaining colonies. It was not enough. Tay knew it was not enough. The Vorn had thousands of warships. They had millions of soldiers. They had technology that made human weapons look like toys, but it was something. It was a start. A man named Juan arrived on the 3rd week. He was thin and quiet, with burn scars covering half his face. Before the invasion, he had been a simple miner. Now he was something else. The Resistance called him the Shadow. The Vorn called him a nightmare. Juan had destroyed 17 Vorn supply stations in 5 months. He worked alone, moving through enemy territory like a ghost. He planted bombs. He sabotaged equipment. He killed Vorn soldiers with his bare hands when he had to. He never smiled. He never spoke more than necessary. He simply did what needed to be done. I heard you are planning to attack Earth, Juan said to Captain Tay. His voice was flat, emotionless. We are, Tay confirmed. Good, Juan nodded once. I will help. Around the same time, a pilot named Nari joined the fleet. She flew a small fighter covered in painted marks. Each mark represented a Vorn ship she had destroyed. There were 47 marks. Nari had escaped Earth on the first day of the invasion. She had watched her entire squadron die around her. She had survived by flying better than any human had ever flown before. Since then, she had lived only for revenge. She commanded a group called the Ghost Wings, 20 pilots who flew impossible missions. They attacked Vorn patrols and disappeared before reinforcements arrived. They rescued prisoners from transport ships. They gathered information from behind enemy lines. They were the eyes and ears of the resistance. My pilots are ready, Nari told Tay during their first meeting. We will fly into hell if you ask us to. I might ask exactly that, Tay replied. Nari smiled. It was not a happy smile. Good, hell is where the Vorn live. We want to visit. On Titan, General Day captured something valuable. A Vorn commander. The creature was tall and thin, with gray skin and eyes like black holes. It did not seem afraid when Day's soldiers brought it to the interrogation room. It did not seem to feel anything at all. Why do you harvest us? Day asked. The Vorn commander tilted its head. When it spoke, its voice sounded like metal scraping against metal. Your species provides acceptable organic yield. Your nervous systems contain energy we require. Your efficient resources. Resources, Day repeated. The word tasted like poison. Correct. The Dominion has harvested 412 species. You are number 413. The process is simple. We collect. We extract. We move on. There is no malice. There is only efficiency. Day leaned forward. And what happens when the resources fight back? For the first time, something changed in the Vorn's black eyes. Something that might have been confusion. Fighting back is illogical. Your probability of success is 0.003%. Resistance wastes energy that could be better used accepting harvest. You do not understand humans, Day said quietly. We understand all species. We have studied your biology, your psychology, your history. You are within normal parameters. You will break. They all break. Day smiled. It was a cold, hard smile. You have studied us, but you have not understood us. There is a difference. He turned to his officers. This creature has told us everything we need to know. The Vorn think we are like the other species they have conquered. They think we will calculate our chances and give up. They think logic controls us. He looked back at the Vorn commander. But humans are not logical. We are stubborn. We are proud. We are angry. And when someone tries to destroy us, we do not calculate probability. We fight. We fight until we cannot fight anymore. And then we fight some more. The Vorn commander stared at him. This behavior is anomalous. It does not match our projections. Get used to disappointment, Day replied on the hidden research station. Dr. Hanna finished her analysis of the Vorn network hub. She now knew everything about it. Its location. Its defenses. Its weaknesses. She transmitted the information to Captain Tay with a simple message. This is how we win. The plan was insane. Everyone knew it was insane. They would have to fly through the largest Vorn fleet ever assembled. They would have to fight their way to the most protected structure in the enemy armada. They would have to destroy a station that was defended by thousands of weapons and millions of soldiers. The probability of success was almost zero, but almost zero was not zero. Sora's. Weapons factories worked day and night. Missiles rolled off assembly lines. Bombs were loaded onto ships. Armor was welded. Guns were calibrated. Every person in the resistance contributed something. Engineers, doctors, farmers, teachers, children helped carry supplies. Old people repaired equipment. Everyone had a job. Everyone had a purpose. The fleet gathered in the shadow of a rogue planet far from any Vorn patrols. 700 ships. 40,000 warriors. Millions more waiting on colonies. Ready to rise when the signal came. Captain Tay stood before a communication screen, his image broadcast to every ship. He had thought about what to say for days. He had written speeches and thrown them away. In the end, he decided to speak from his heart. They told us resistance was impossible, Tay began. They calculated our extinction. They looked at their numbers and their projections and decided we were already dead. They measured our ships and our weapons and concluded we could not win. He paused. He looked into the camera as if he could see every face watching him. But they forgot one thing. They forgot what it means to be human. We are not numbers on a screen. We are not resources to be harvested. We are people. We love, we dream. We hope, we fear. And when everything we love is threatened, we do not calculate. We do not analyze. We fight. His voice grew stronger. Tomorrow we attack. Many of us will die. Maybe most of us. Maybe all of us. But even if we fail, we will show them something. We will show them that humanity does not kneel. We will show them that some things cannot be measured or predicted. We will show them that the human spirit is stronger than any weapon. He raised his fist. For Earth, for our families, for everyone we have lost. We rise together, unbroken, unyielding, and we make them remember our names. Across 700 ships, 40,000 voices roared in response. The storm was ready. Tomorrow it would break. 3 months passed like 3 centuries. The universe had become cold and empty. Stars that once seemed beautiful now looked like the eyes of dead gods, watching humanity crawl through the darkness like wounded animals. Captain Tay had found others. Broken ships filled with broken people. They gathered in the asteroid belt, hiding among the rocks like mice hiding from eagles. Every day more refugees arrived. Every day Tay heard the same stories. Death, loss, horror. A woman named Gina had organized the survivors. She was thin and tired, with gray hair that had once been black. Before the invasion, she had been a politician. Now she was something else. A leader of ghosts. We have 12,000 people, Gina told Tay during their first meeting. Mostly civilians. Some soldiers. Not enough food. Not enough medicine. Not enough anything. How long can we last? Tay asked. 2 months. Maybe 3. After that, she did not finish the sentence. She did not need to. Tay looked around the asteroid base. It was ugly and cramped. People slept in hallways. Children cried from hunger. Old men stared at walls with empty eyes. This was all that remained of human civilization. A few thousand souls hiding in a hole in space. But they were alive. And as long as they were alive, there was a chance. On Titan, the largest moon of Saturn, General Day was not hiding. He was fighting. Day was a big man with hands like hammers and a face made of stone. He had commanded ground forces for 20 years. He had never lost a battle. When the Vorn came, he refused to run. Let them come to my moon, he told his soldiers. Let them learn what humans can do. The Vorn sent 5,000 troops to Titan. They expected easy victory. They found something else. Day's soldiers fought from tunnels and caves. They attacked at night and disappeared before dawn. They used bombs made from mining equipment. They set traps in every corridor, every building, every shadow. The Vorn lost 300 soldiers in the first week, then 500 more. They could not understand what was happening. Their calculations said humans should surrender. Their data said humans were weak. Their projections said victory would take 2 days. 2 months later, they still did not control Titan. They do not understand us, Day told his officers one night. They think war is mathematics. They count soldiers and weapons and resources. They calculate probability and make predictions. But they forget one thing. What is that, General? A young lieutenant asked. Humans are not numbers, Day said. We are not logical. We do not surrender when we should. We do not die when we are supposed to. We fight even when fighting makes no sense. That is our power. That is what they cannot calculate. Far away, in a hidden research station, Dr. Hannah was making a discovery that would change everything. She had studied the Vorn for 3 months. She had analyzed their ships, their weapons, their communications. She had watched them like a scientist watches bacteria under a microscope. And she had found their weakness. The Vorn operated as one mind. Every ship, every soldier, every machine was connected to a central network. This network gave them perfect coordination. It made them unbeatable in battle, but it also made them vulnerable. If we destroy the network hub, Hannah explained to a group of resistance leaders via secret communication, their entire fleet will lose coordination. Ships will not be able to talk to each other. Soldiers will not know what to do. They will become confused, weak. Where is this hub? Gina asked. In orbit around Earth, at the center of their armada? Hannah paused. It will be almost impossible to reach. Almost impossible, Captain Tay repeated. That means it is possible. On the mining colony of Kepler-7, a young woman named Sora was building weapons. She was only 19 years old. Her parents had died on Earth. Her brother had died trying to escape. She had nothing left but anger, and she was very smart. Sora worked in an old factory surrounded by scrap metal and broken machines. She took pieces from everywhere. Mining drills, ship engines, power cells. She combined them in ways no one had thought of before. What is this? An older engineer asked, looking at her creation. A missile, Sora said. It uses mining charges as warheads. The guidance system is made from navigation computers. It is ugly, it is crude, and it will kill Vorn. She tested the missile on an asteroid. The explosion was so large it could be seen from space. They have better technology, Sora said to the gathered survivors. They have bigger ships. They have more soldiers. But we have something they do not have. We have nothing left to lose. And people with nothing to lose are the most dangerous people in the universe. The word began to spread. From asteroid to asteroid, from moon to moon, from ship to ship, humans were fighting back. Humans were winning small victories. Humans were not extinct yet. On the hidden asteroid base, Gina called a meeting. Every surviving leader attended through encrypted channels. General Day from Titan, Captain Tay from the refugee fleet, Dr. Hannah from her research station, Sora from Kepler-7, others from a dozen different hiding places. The Vorn think we are already dead, Gina said. They think they can take their time hunting us down. They think we will simply wait for the end. She looked at each face on her screen. She saw fear. She saw exhaustion. She saw despair. But she also saw something else. A spark. A tiny flame that refused to die. They are wrong, Gina continued. We are not cattle waiting for slaughter. We are humans. Our ancestors survived ice ages. They survived plagues. They survived wars that killed millions. They survived because they refused to give up. And we will survive too. She stood up straighter. Her voice grew stronger. I'm not asking you to hope. I'm not asking you to believe we can win. I'm asking you something simpler. I'm asking you to fight, to resist, to make them pay for every human life they have taken, to show them that destroying humanity will cost them more than they can afford. The faces on the screen changed. The spark grew brighter. Fear transformed into determination. Despair became rage. General Day spoke first. My soldiers are ready. Then Sora, my weapons are ready. Then Captain Tay, my ships are ready. Then Dr. Hannah. Their weakness is exposed. I know how to hurt them. Gina nodded. For the first time in 3 months, she smiled. Then we fight, she said. We fight until we win or until we die. But we do not hide anymore. We do not wait anymore. The Vorn wanted to harvest humanity. Let us show them what happens when the harvest fights back. In the darkness of space, among the asteroids and the ruins, the embers of humanity began to glow. The fire was coming. Captain Tay stood on the bridge of the TCS Defiance and watched the sky turn black. It was not night. It was not a storm. It was ships. Thousands of them. They came from nowhere, appearing in the space above. Earth like ghosts made of metal and death. The Vorn had arrived. Tay had served in the Terran Navy for 15 years. He had seen pirates. He had seen rebels. He had seen accidents that killed good men. But he had never seen anything like this. The Vorn ships were massive, each one larger than any human vessel ever built. They moved in perfect formation like a single living creature with 10,000 parts. All ships, battle stations. Admiral Yun's voice came through the communication system. The old man sounded calm, but Tay knew him well enough to hear the fear underneath. This is not a drill. Protect Earth at all costs. The human fleet was strong. 200 warships. The pride of 12 colony worlds. They had trained for years. They had prepared for any enemy. They were not prepared for this. The battle lasted 72 hours. Tay did not sleep. He did not eat. He watched ship after ship explode in the darkness of space. The Vorn weapons cut through human shields like they were made of paper. Their fighters moved too fast to track. Their tactics made no sense until it was too late on the first day. Humanity lost 50 ships. On the second day, they lost 80 more. By the third day, the fleet was broken. Captain, his navigator, a young woman named Sora, spoke with a shaking voice. The flagship is gone. Admiral Yun is dead. Tay closed his eyes for a moment. Yun had been like a father to him. The old admiral had taught him everything about war, about duty, about sacrifice. Now he was gone, turned to fire and ash somewhere in the void, but there was no time for grief. What was his last order? Tay asked. Scatter, survive, return. Sora repeated the words like a prayer. He said it just before the end? Tay looked at his crew. 18 people remained on the Defiance. 18 out of 200. They were burned, bleeding, exhausted. They looked at him with eyes full of fear and something else. Hope. They still hoped he could save them. Set course for the outer planets, Tay ordered. Maximum speed. We run. The Defiance turned away from Earth, its engines screaming with effort. Behind them, the Vorn continued their work. They did not chase the fleeing ships. They did not need to. They had already won. Far away, on Mars, Dr. Hannah watched the destruction through a telescope. She was a scientist, not a soldier. She had spent her life studying alien life, dreaming of first contact. She had imagined friendly beings, curious explorers, fellow seekers of knowledge. The Vorn were none of these things. Hannah watched as Vorn landing ships descended on Earth, millions of them. They covered every continent, every city, every town. She watched as they began to collect humans like farmers collecting grain. They are harvesting us, she whispered to herself. They see us as cattle. Her hands trembled as she recorded everything. Someone had to remember. Someone had to know what happened here. If any humans survived, they would need to understand their enemy. The Vorn broadcast a message on every frequency. Every radio, every screen, every device on every world received the same words in a cold, mechanical voice. You are harvested. Resistance is mathematical impossibility. Mathematical impossibility. The words burned in Hannah's mind. The Vorn did not see humans as threats. They did not even see them as enemies. To them, humanity was just numbers, resources, things to be counted and collected. On Earth, cities burned. People ran through streets filled with smoke and screams. Families were torn apart. Children cried for parents they would never see again. The Vorn machines moved through the chaos with cold efficiency, taking some humans and killing others. No one understood the pattern. No one understood anything anymore. In a small apartment in Seoul, an old woman held a photograph of her grandson. He had been a pilot. He had died on the first day. She did not cry. She had no tears left. She simply sat in the darkness and waited for the end on a beach in Brazil. A young father carried his daughter toward a refugee ship. The girl asked where they were going. He did not answer. He did not know. In a bunker under Moscow, generals argued about surrender. One of them pulled out a gun and shot himself. The others fell silent. Humanity was breaking. Captain Tay watched Earth grow smaller in the rear display. The blue planet, home of 8 billion souls, was now a prison, a slaughterhouse. He thought of his mother, his sister, his childhood friends. They were all down there. They were all gone. "Captain," Sora said softly, "we have cleared Vorn sensor range. We are safe." Safe. The word meant nothing now. Tate turned away from the display. He could not watch anymore. The sight of Earth falling into darkness was too much to bear. "Find other survivors," he ordered. "Anyone who escaped. We need to gather everyone we can. And then what?" Sora asked. Tay did not answer. He had no answer. The Vorn had destroyed everything. The fleet was gone. Earth was gone. Hope was gone. In the cold silence of space, the Defiants flew toward the unknown. Behind them, Earth disappeared into the black. All hope was lost. But somewhere deep inside Captain Tay, in a place he did not yet know existed, a small fire began to burn. It was not hope. It was not courage. It was something older. Something darker. It was the refusal to die, and that small fire would one day become an inferno.